Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. For those of you who are listening, welcome to this episode of Black Beat Podcast, where we take an unapologetically approach to the issues that plague us in our community. Today, we're going to talk about some things that, just has been bugging me a little bit. And they've been on my mind because it seems like the world done gone crazy a little crazier than it usually is. I keep looking at all these shootings. They just had a shooting in Michigan where 4 people got shot, and they calling it, man, and I started thinking about this a little bit. And when I seen the shooting, the first thing I started thinking, well, there goes another one of them other kind of people. But man, I happened to notice that this cat was a black cat again. In the Michigan shooting, it was a brother who just decided he wanted to retaliate about something over there. And this is just going just a little bit too far. The world is just gone crazy. And not only that, man, I was sitting and listening to CNN. On one time, they talking about Michigan, and the next minute, they talking about selling Narcan over the counter now, which is an indicator that what is that thing? Them pills that's killing everybody, fentanyl. That's the fentanyl crave. It's done gone crazy.
Yeah,
fentanyl.
Yeah.
So today, but anyway, I was just checking with all that, and one of our jock that sit in on the Black Beat podcast, Mr. Harrison Danley, I had no idea. Well, I'm be lying about his background, his past, but the brother is a clinician. He's got that clinical background in the drug and alcohol field. But it's just something I wanted to just chop it up with him today about a little bit about what's going on in the world around this fentanyl and all these things. So hey, Harrison, welcome to the man, I ain't gonna tell you welcome because this is part of your platform also, man.
Right.
But the thing is, we needed to chop this up, man, because I'm needing to know what's going on in the world around drug and alcohol addictions, treatments, methodologies. I mean, all these things, because I never thought I'd see the day when they selling Narcan on as a over-the-counter remedy.
Let people know what Narcan is. Narcan is more of the name on the street. The real drug they're talking about is naloxone, and naloxone is the drug that brings people back to life after they OD on opiates. It doesn't work that way with any other drug except opiates. As you know, I used to manage a methadone clinic. And we used to literally bring people back to life. The police would drop them off at our clinic, knowing they're OD'd. And then we would give them the spray, the naloxone, up their nasal. Since I'm not a nurse or that kind of person, I had to administer the spray. And you give them 2 or 3 sprays in each nostril. And within about 20 minutes or so, they would come back to life.
Man.
In other words, naloxone combats it combats the effects of opiates and does just the opposite. Instead of taking their life like opiate ODs do, brings them back to life. What's going on now, though, is we won't say it's a new drug. It's a drug that has been chemically altered.
Yeah, synthesized, yes.
And so what you have now is, and you and I talked earlier about the difference between an opiate and an opioid. Opioids are chemically manufactured synthetic drugs. Opiates derive from the opiate poppy plants. In other words, opiates, they're not just the drug that is the most prolific nowadays, but it is in a form. Well, the form it's in is an opioid. Actually, it doesn't come from the poppy plant. It comes from the Chinese. The Chinese have they created fentanyl. The Mexican cartels get the ingredients for fentanyl into the country, and they create fentanyl tablets. what they don't do is they don't tell people that these tablets are similar to anti-anxiety drugs, which are benzodiazepines like Xanax and the like. And they look like benzos on the streets.
Yeah, I saw here, my
They
son.
don't tell people.
Yeah, the colors are changing on the street.
Well,
the
they're the colors
of the pills
of
and all that, yeah.
Right? But they don't tell people that these are not benzos. They look exactly like benzodiazepines, anti-anxiety drugs. But they are laced with non-pharmaceutical fentanyl. Pharmaceutical fentanyl, salt drop that big can kill you. So what's going on now, there's a couple hundred people a day that die from fentanyl overdose, which is kind of interesting term.
Is that an increase of back, like say, if we was to look back at that about 25 years ago, is that more people dying now from it than it was back then?
Yes, and they're dying at a quicker pace because of the. It's the potency of the drug fentanyl. The Chinese knew exactly what they were doing when they created fentanyl. They knew where fentanyl would be dispersed, and it is here in these ununited states.
See, like everybody knows the things that should be dispersed.
They make things to sabotage the economy and everything else. And the Chinese, just like lately, if you look, you'll see that the Chinese are claiming that their balloons have just sort of accidentally roamed into the airspace of this country. The Chinese don't do anything accidental. It's like the virus.
Yeah.
The virus wasn't accidentally.
Boy, they
It
hitting
was
us from all kinds of
manufactured and it got out of control.
Man.
And now, we always say that the higher monkey climbs the tree, the more his ass shows. Well, the Chinese have climbed the tree. They can't quite get out of it.
They're 60,000 feet right now.
Because what they tried to do was affect folks in a way that the world has never seen except once before during the Spanish flu in, I think it was 1908. Okay, so we had this pandemic. What's going on now? When you talked earlier about the world's going crazy.
Going crazy. Violence and drug use.
If you look
and
back
everything.
at 1908, the world then is like the world now. More mental hospitals were built. More people were dying after and during the pandemic. But people don't look at history. People get bored with history. But in history is where we know where the truth is. We know what's going on by those who forget the past kind of thing, are condemned to repeat it.
Repeat it, yeah.
Well, the people that suffer the most are people that look like me and you.
Man, it seemed like the drugs just rain downhill, huh?
Yeah, it kind of flows that way.
Yeah, it seemed like it, dude.
Yeah.
And I saw on the news this, and they kept coming up talking about these two white cats that changed the face.
Murdochs.
Yeah, and they said, well, they didn't create the drug, but they changed the nature of the layout. How people receiving it.
I saw pieces of that, and that's just one more show. It's sort of like every year there is the drug of choice that the media, the movie industry, and people choose. The truth of the matter is, we are United States of drug use.
Right.
Drug use is everywhere, but it affects people like you and me much more because we are subjected to not being able to get the kind of medical help we need. We don't generally have access to medical systems. So it's like in COVID, black people have died 10 times as quickly as white folks.
Oh, now you're talking about
because we are used to. In the East, we live on top of each other.
Yeah.
So if the brother down on the first floor got the COVID, everybody in the whole building got the COVID.
Yeah.
But that don't stop fools from using them drugs.
No,
it's like a
didn't
lot of
seem
people
like
think
that.
crack is gone. Crack ain't gone nowhere, man. It's just under the baggie. That's all. And you call it what you want. You can call it crack. You can call it fentanyl. You can call it heroin. You can call it what you want. But it is running the show.
Yeah.
When crack comes to your house, it says it's time. Like I be telling you, it's time. You don't believe it. but it's time.
Yeah. Hey, so Harrison, you obviously got a doctorates in the background of this. Hey man, is Oregon or where we live in is the history of this phenomenon?
Drug use phenomenon?
Yeah, has it gotten worse in your mind as to how things are being managed in the treatment industry, the history of drug use, people in our communities using drugs? Has it proliferated in its sense? And then what are the types of structures and things that are out there for people to get some solutions? So give me a little bit of history about how the history of treatment in Oregon and stuff like that. Let me talk to me a little bit about how this went.
Let's start off with your first question. Your first question was, again, give it to me again. The first
question that I made, man, what's the history of the usage? I mean, have you seen it proliferate? Have you seen it transform itself?
It always gets worse in our neighborhood, poor neighborhoods, darker skinned neighborhoods, because white folks in general, not all, can pay their way out of any epidemic. You know, the difference between the epidemic
about treatment and stuff like that.
Between the epidemic and a pandemic is simply that one is more local than the other, and the other is worldwide. We've had epidemics here every other year, it seems. So now, the beautiful thing about the Pacific Northwest, the beautiful thing about the East, there's a program. You and I both know about this program. And it's a program, it's a volunteer program. You don't have to go. But there is a thing called the 12 steps, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't seem to understand, or they don't agree with the 12 steps, because the 12 steps are not, it's not, you can't go and find anything that backs up the 12-step process except for the people that are involved in the 12-step process.
And there's billions of people or millions of people that have gone through it, the way I understand it, huh?
Absolutely. There are millions of people all over the world, but because science can't prove why it works, they denigrate it. They put it down. You and I, or people like us, we got shit on for years and told we deserve AIDS, we deserve to die, we deserve all those bad things as a result of drug use, when in truth, the fact is that we finally decided one day that the only people that will help us are people that are like us.
Like us,
right? They've been down the same road we've been down, right? So we had to go to each other.
Yeah, we knew all them old dope fiends back in the neighborhood. Yeah.
In desperation, we sought help from each other, right?
Yeah.
So the system has, since we found help with each other, the system has consistently put us down, because what we do is not scientific, it's spiritual in nature.
You talking about we as the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous?
Well, that is one of the programs. The 12 steps that started with the Liquid Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
The primary difference between, say, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous is in the first step. The first step of any program that's going to work around the 12 steps, the first thing you got to do is admit that you don't have no power. And once you admit you don't have no power over a certain substance, you get all the power you need to move on.
Yeah,
but ego says, man, you got me twisted, partner.
Yeah. Or
I ain't got no what?
Right,
you see this
no
here?
power,
You
this
see
here?
these?
Yes,
I got power.
yeah.
You call it what you want, Glock. I got power, partner.
Yeah, I got power, and also that false kind of power. I mean, after we start grogging and we start drugging and we start weeding. Hey, man, but we live in a state now, but just think about it. The state we live in, almost everything is legal. The way I understand, everything is legal here.
You're talking about because they legalized weed.
They legalized weed. They legalized a certain amount of cocaine you could have, a little methamphetamine you could have.
When did they? They legalized.
Yeah,
Sudafed,
they legalized all of that.
Sudafed and all that, right?
Yeah, so I don't know if they legalized prostitution in this state.
Oh well, hoes is hoes.
But they don't seem to talk about that one as something we should go and petition for to get more visible. But when we see the stress that our communities are, is there a reason for this proliferation in your mind in drug usage over the years in our community, other than just the normal flow of it, or is there something driving that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's an increase in the actual use as much as there is an increase in the actual reporting of or putting onto the news or bringing us to bear, because the system has always known that we have access to all kinds of things. The system has put drugs in our community.
Yeah, we all know
over
about the
years,
war on
right?
drugs. Yeah.
The problem is, though,
Where
it
that
don't
got
just
us.
stay in one community. See, it's sort of like Measure 11 here in the state of Oregon.
Yeah.
Was
We
the
were talking about dissolution.
It was the maximum penalty for the smallest crime.
Right, maximum sentencing
And that came about because of the proliferation of gangs here in Portland, starting out in Columbia Villa.
Right.
I worked in Columbia Villa. The first death, August the 28th of 1988. Ray Winston got shot down by a brother that I know. Well, he was in the car anyway, and I know him because I had watched Grant High School win the basketball championship in March of 1988, and this brother played on the team with Terrell Brandon, right? Okay, so
OTB.
Well, it was it was James D. Demery, and I know he puts his name out all the time anyway because he's a good guy today. He has turned his life completely around. But so I'm out at Columbia Villa, and all the little gangsters are selling dope, and the system knows, right? But when it starts to affect folks that don't look like me and you, when it starts to affect little kids of alabaster hue, little white kids, then the system
quickly got
it
with
wakes up,
In
right?
fact,
It's like
it's
damn.
over the counter. You can get a solution for this problem.
So
that's one of the dark end.
Naloxone has been in existence for at least 50 years. It has only been advertised and sold over the counter in the last few years, primarily because the people who have controlled naloxone, namely the DEA, well, they've lost control.
How so?
Well, they had control by deciding who would live and who would die when it comes to opiate overdose, right?
There you go.
But they lost control of that process. The information got out to the wrong people. It got out to people that look like me and you. We got folk that's dying from this bull. So we're saying, hey, y'all done had this for 50 years and we just now knowing? Well, we don't get anything earlier than 50 years unless you dig. And if you dig, you become controversial, right?
Yeah.
You become like arrogant and you think this and you think that, right?
Yeah.
So where we're at today, it's not the proliferation of the drug fentanyl. It is the news that has focused that on our community so it gets out. We've been trying to escape from the pain of living in this nation since we got here. What do you think the brothers was doing out there in them cabins on them plantations?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? The brother wasn't in the woodpile by himself.
Yeah, I know they was making mash.
You know what I mean?
understand it,
What was George Washington's wife? What was her name?
I don't remember George.
Well,
Washington.
when George
he
was
wrote
out
the
on
last name.
out in the water, on the river,
Yeah, on the
talking about
Potomac,
these are the times that try men's souls.
Yeah.
Well, Martha Washington, she was in, with the brothers in. But you better come on over and do your job.
No.
Yowza, ma'am. All that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, truth be told, we are where we are.
Yeah, but you make a real good point, man. I mean, the fact of the matter is, since we've been here in this country, man, we've been trying to figure out how to relieve the pain of the burden of being here and what they've inflicted upon us. And, man, but I think that is the definition of addiction, though, isn't it, Harrison, when you start looking at it from the point that I am going to use something to alter my state of consciousness. Right. Because I don't particularly like the way I feel today.
Well, that's part of the definition of addiction. But if Johnny White uses the same amount of dope that I use, and I get addicted and he doesn't. Well, why does that happen?
Well, that's
Why
good.
is that? That's not called addiction. That's
Yeah.
called a normal use. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Because he can go straight to where he needs to get to get it right.
Functioning is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
well,
He don't lay
functioning
down
at it, right.
on the job. He keep doing the job, but he just keep using it.
So what we have here in Portland, we are very, very fortunate. Portland, Oregon is one of the whitest states in the union. Oregon is only one of 2 states in the union that when you go to jail, you don't have, if you got a felony, you don't have to have a jury that's 12-0. You know what I mean? A unanimous jury. You don't need that in Oregon and Louisiana. You can have a 10-2, 10-3. A lot of people don't know that. Oregon is and has always been a Jim Crow state, right? So brothers go to jail. That whole non-unanimous jury comes from the system of what do they call it? Convict leasing. In order to make up for the losses that emancipation produced.
Oh, that's the 13th Amendment you're talking about?
The 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
The caveat, the caution in the 13th Amendment is in these United States,
Except
we
duly
have
convicted.
we have now released, there are no more slaves, right?
Yeah.
Except in one instance, and that is in the instance of criminality.
Duly convicted.
Right?
Yeah.
And once you become duly convicted, just like convicts today, I can pay you 5 cents a day if I want to.
And put you to
It's
work.
totally legal. Well, I put you to, any other word but slavery.
Yeah.
Convict leasing is worse than slavery, involuntary servitude, because I can not only make you work, but just like during slavery, I can kill you when I want to. The average age of folks that look like me and you during that era is 37 years old. They work us to death. We wouldn't live no. Shoot, some of the things, man. People say, "Well, Harrison, why are black men angry?" Well, I just want to shoot them.
Yeah.
When they ask that, just to show them why, because that's what they did to us regularly. So
that was ever since the war on drugs and and
there was
heroin
never a
that they
war on
threw.
drugs. You understand
yeah,
that,
well,
right?
we all knew that.
There's a war on
on us
and poor
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
And now we're suffering from the effects of the
Right.
war on drugs.
Right.
Because they acted as if there was really a war on drugs when really it was a war on me, you.
Yeah.
This young man here and the man from Sierra Leone. It was a war on him too.
Yeah, it was a war on everybody. So Harrison, what were some of the solutions that we came up with to begin to address some of the addiction issues that we have in our state and in our communities today? I mean, what are some of the methods and some of the things? I mean, because I remember when we were talking about this Narcan at one point in time, that you were saying that it's always been around,
Yes.
and then when it is used on some of the addicts. Tell me that story again when you were talking about when it's used on the addicts, they want to get high. They have the greatest desire to want to get high after that.
When folks are administered naloxone, which is an opium blocker, what happens is they come back to life, literally. The problem is whether you've been a dope fiend for 5 days or 5 years or 25 years, the desire to get loaded has never been greater than it is after you are brought back on naloxone or Narcan, as you say. And so when you say a dope fiends don't fiend any heavier than when they come back off of naloxone or Narcan. So what we have in the treatment of folks when we administer this drug naloxone, we have stations in which we monitor the individual who has just been brought back to life to keep them safe. Because as I know, all over the country, when an addict finds out that somebody done OD'd on some dope, well, addicts all over the world
Want to go buy
beat a
that?
pad. They beat a pad. They're like, that's some good,
Yeah.
that's some good, that's some
It
good
killed
shit,
Joey.
partner.
Let's go
Yes,
get some
we
more
got
of
to
that
find
shit,
that, man.
Yeah.
And what they find is death. What I have seen, because I managed a methadone clinic for 10 years here in Portland, what I have seen in regard to police behavior, the police will come and take somebody who is OD'd, they'll bring them to our clinic. We will administer naloxone and Narcan, and 25, 30 minutes later, they come back to life. The police are well aware that if they're not monitored, they'll go straight back. Sometimes the police would pick somebody up after they dropped them off and we done brought them back to life and then let them go. Because they still get paid if the person is alive or dead. But if they're dead, they ain't got to write all the paperwork and all like that. So the police
I'm not laughing, but it's like
police would
wanting
pick
dead
them
or
up
alive.
from
Still
our
that same
clinic,
thing, yeah.
and we try to keep them away from the police. And they would drop them off, and the next day you read about them, they're dead because they went right back. And the police are well aware of what they're doing. It's just less paperwork now, that kind of thing.
Yeah, another instrument. So, Harrison, what is your being in the industry for as long as you've been in the industry, man? What are you seeing is where we're headed, or do you see solutions in mind?
The good news here in Portland, especially, is about 30 some odd years ago, addicts who ran into addicts started helping addicts. We started getting beyond just helping addicts. We started to help our community, because when you got a person who has been fiending for dope forever and they get clean, the vision of the world changes. And so what happens is we start participating in society beyond our own belief that we could. We start getting jobs. We start taking care of our kids. We start telling the truth. We start going to a place where they talk about the solution to addiction rather than the problem. And it's not jail I'm talking about here.
Yeah, but that's where they say treatment is.
Well, treatment. Well, that's what they say treatment is. But really, I've worked in the penitentiary system here in Oregon for over 15 years. As a matter of fact, you may not know, but I'm going to tell you now that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has been inside Oregon State Penitentiary since 12 years after it was founded, since 1947.
What's that old boy, Bill W? Or
Bill
Wilson,
W. and Dr.
something
Bob,
like Dr. Bob
started the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Bill got sober in Towns Hospital, 1934. Dr. Bob got sober in Akron, Ohio, June 10th, 1935. So the system incorporated that and said, "Shoot, this is like manna from heaven."
Yeah, they said.
But now, what are we gonna do about them dope fiends?
Yeah.
So the United States government, through the health department, developed through these narcotics farms in the 40s. One was in Lexington, Lexington, Kentucky, and the other one was in Fort Worth, Texas. Dope fiends would go there voluntarily or from prison systems to get the drugs out of their system. The problem? You can't give dope fiends dope and expect them to get clean, because ultimately that's what the system was doing. It was having addicts do experiments by giving them drugs to see what the effects of the drugs would be. So for 45 years,
even when I was in college, the CIA was doing that with oranges.
For 45 years, 45? No, it was like 1943 till 1984.
Well, yeah, that was about right around the time,
right?
Yeah.
That, and so they had to finally close down in scandal. But from there began what was known as Addicts Anonymous, right? Because there was a number of doctors who were going into these two narcotics farms off and on for 10, 15 years. And when they got away from the narcotics farm, they went back to New York or wherever, and they started meeting together because they met together inside the hospital, inside the farms, right? But they couldn't sustain it when they went out. They would go out to the community, like New York, Boston, wherever, and for a time they could stay clean, but the support would drift off and they'd go back until in July 15th of 1953. 4 years before I was born. I am 4 years older than Narcotics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous, it brought together people who were, like I had said earlier, we didn't get help nowhere else. We asked each other. Now we are, here in the North, let's go to the Northwest, because that's where we are.
Yeah, man.
Right? And so the solution for us started with a man named Harry Dubbs, Harry Watson. Harry died 5 years ago. Harry was the person that helped me the most in Narcotics Anonymous back in 1985.
Was Harry a white man or a black man? I didn't know.
No, Harry was as black as me and you.
Oh, okay.
But people, a lot of black folks have problems with other black folks because somehow,
it seems like that, don't it?
Well, people think that we are homogenous, that we're all alike, and we're not. We're different. Harry was a different fellow. You know that song, Harry Hippie? Harry was sort of like a hippie. So people clowned Harry. And Harry was just a nice person. But when he was on dope, he wasn't so nice. I mean, he tried to kill his father with a knife. Well, actually, he stabbed his father a couple times during his addiction. And when Harry finally got clean and he went to make amends to his daddy looked at him and said, "Son, I forgave you years ago." You could see the tears when Harry even talks about that story, right? Because Harry died 5 years ago with 45 years of recovery.
Wow.
He dedicated his life to doing different, just as I have. 37 years ago, I met you 40-some-odd years ago, right? Yeah. And we've been through all kind of things, but we've come to the other side of all that, right?
Right.
So here in the Pacific Northwest, we're real fortunate because,
but are we fortunate, Harrison? And I don't want to. Are we fortunate in the sense that we have these opportunities? But the fact of the matter is that we even have more opportunity than most places, like the legalization. Does the legalization of all these substances make it more difficult for us to be able to accomplish the goals of having a much more healthier society or community, absence of drug use and addiction?
Of course not. It doesn't make any.
Yeah.
Listen. Drugs ain't never been illegal to me and you and people like us. They can put them on the books and say now it's a law. They always been legal to me and you.
Yeah, but
that don't stop us from using or make us use even anymore.
Okay, but what they legal now though? So is that a hindrance for us to be able to move toward a healthier place, or is that?
I don't think it's a hindrance. I think it's just brought the issue of addiction out of the closet. But as I say, drugs ain't illegal to dope fiends. We're going to do some drugs whether you say, okay, it's okay by law or not. We're going to do it. Today, we just don't have as many consequences because the jail beds aren't as available as they were back in the day. But now that the pandemics are gone, or pretty much.
Them beds might come back.
The beds are back. Let me come back. They back. In spades, literally.
Yeah,
a lot of spades going to
jail. A lot of spades in the bed.
So we were fortunate to a large degree because no matter what's going on in society, the world is the world.
Yeah.
But within that world, you got people like Harry and Jackie J, who have dedicated their lives to change, and they have kept that going. The Pacific Northwest started. Harry is the person given the most credit for starting Narcotics Anonymous in the Pacific Northwest, not just Portland, right?
I know that, yeah.
I went with Harry all over the place. He started me, and I started a few as well. In 1987, and I talked about it a minute ago, I didn't finish the story. The state penitentiary system had AA, but it wouldn't allow NA. Harry calls me on the phone in 1987, I had a couple years almost clean. He said, we got an opportunity to bring NA into the penitentiary. So what we did was from August of 1987 to August of 1988, me and Harry every other week went down to penitentiary and had a meeting. We couldn't call it NA. We called it recovery. And we met there for almost a year until in August 22nd of 1988, we started the Hole in the Wall group of Narcotics Anonymous at Oregon State Penitentiary, which is going on to this day.
Wow.
That's a serious change.
Yeah, man.
Because now at the Miracles Club, which we started about 30 years ago so we can listen to our own music and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
At the Miracles Club, there's a bunch of people that come out of the penitentiary. They come straight to the Miracles Club. They can look at people be around people that look like them. White folks don't think that's important. That's because they look like each other. But
we look like
we
each
could
other
be comfortable and we could recover. Because the first thing people would say when I got clean, black folks coming to the meetings, they look around and they see mostly white folks, they're out of there. But my deal was, well, you see mostly white folks a lot of times at the dope house. You wasn't out of there. You spent your money. See, that kind of thing.
I'm sitting here thinking, man, as I'm listening to you talking, I'm thinking, well, how do I know I got a problem with drugs or alcohol or any of that kind of stuff, number one? And what should I be looking for to gauge, rather? I mean, because so what? I'm young. I'm 25. I'm 24 years old, 26 years old. I'm going out having some parties and drinking and using drugs and all that. I mean, how do I know I've become an addict? I mean, why would that even
That's a good question. It's a very good question. The problem is you don't know until you know. And when you know, you deny you know. Right? That's the first thing you do when you know is you deny you know. And you'll say shit like, I can quit when I want to. Really?
Boy, we had that heard down.
Well, let's quit now.
Yeah.
I don't
give me
want,
30 days.
I don't want to. Give you 30 days?
Yeah, that's what
I'll
they would
give
say.
you
Give me
60 days.
Oh, you give them 60 to try.
But it's sort of like when I talk to people who smoke cigarettes, and I tell them if they quit today, I'll give you $20. But you got to stay quit. And they I can do it, Harrison. Give me my $20. No. Here's what you do. And then by the time a day goes by, maybe, they're smoking and saying, I quit when I want to. I just don't want to.
Yeah, because I didn't think you was going to give me the $20.
Yeah, some old bullshit like that, right? So we have an opportunity now in Portland. We are hooked up with the Seattle Fellowship. We are hooked up with the Tacoma Fellowship because we started a whole lot of meetings up there. Next month, we're going to Ocean Shores, Washington. There's a conference. That town generally holds about 1,100 people, Ocean Shores, Washington.
Really?
It will hold about 4,000 the second week of March. And I've been going there since 1989 and had 4 years clean.
Wow.
And I've spoken there. I've spoken all over the place, carrying the message of recovery. So we have an opportunity. It don't even cost you nothing. We keep what we have by giving it away. And I'm not talking about your car, your girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the message of recovery, which is free.
Okay. And Harrison, so tell me, man, I mean, why would I, to do this, would it help my life, improve my life? Why would I want to enroll in something like this? Why to go along with this thought of these recovering people coming together? What would be my reason for getting together with them?
Are you happy now?
That's what you would ask them if they
right away. Are you happy now? You don't look happy. You got holes in your clothes. You're on the street.
So it's happy.
You're living up under the bridge. And why would you what? How would you know?
Pain.
Even when you get ready to eat, you smoke.
Yeah.
When you get ready to do the bathroom, you smoke. Or whatever it is you do that before you do anything. So when will you know? Now.
My life has become unmanageable.
Super unmanageable. But keep in mind that the steps never tell you that you're powerless. A lot of people think that's what the steps say because it says we admitted we were powerless, but they don't finish the statement. The statement says we admitted we were powerless over something. And the difference between the Liquid Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and the Liquid Solids and Gases Fellowship of NA, we don't believe our problem is a single substance. We believe it is the disease of addiction. That says liquid, solids, or gases, whatever you use. If you're an addict, you're going to use it at least twice. Anything you do twice, you're going to do 3 times. It's So I know by my experience, I just don't want to admit it to myself. I have experienced over 300 deaths in my recovery from people who have people who have died and people who I've worked with over the years. In 1997, one of my friends was dying of cancer. His brother calls me over. I go see him. He's in the back of his house. He's got a hospital bed. He's dying, but he can't die. He's got all this stuff in his throat. Since I've seen it so many times, I know what's going on. He can't die because he can't swallow. I go over to Fred Meyer's out there on 99th, and I get this turkey baster. And I bring it over and I pull out 4 or 5 full tubes of phlegm. And the last tube I pulled out, he breathed and died.
Wow.
Kenny Barr. He was my good friend. A lot of times, I may not come to your birthday, I may not come to your party, but when God calls you home, he calls me first. And I will be there for your last breath, which is what I've done. And people will say to me, well, Harrison, I don't know how you do it. Well, I don't do it. God does it. We keep what we have by giving it away. We carry the message. So when people criticize me they say I'm arrogant, I'm this, I'm that. Well, I have seen people take their last breath, and they have purposefully contacted me or somebody that knows me so I could be there with them when they go home to God.
Wow. That's quite a interesting how you could start out with fun and having fun with your friends and going to the club and snorting a little bit of this and drinking a little bit of that to over a period of prolonged usage that somewhere along the line you cross that imaginary or that invisible line where you believe you can come back from, but you don't.
Right.
Until you pursue it until someone shows up to your house with a turkey baster.
Right.
It's scary, man. It's scary what that would do, you know?
Yeah.
So if you had to say something to our community, Harrison, about the state of affairs around substance and abuse in our state, what would you say to the young folks today, man, to caution them, to make them aware of, or to somehow or another educate our community at this point in time on some topics and things they should be cautious or be aware of at this point?
Well, I would first of all advise them to look in their phone for the number to the Miracles Club. It's called the Miracles for a reason. There are nothing but miracles that attend that club, run that club, save people's lives. Doesn't cost you anything but effort.
Doesn't cost you anything but some effort.
But some effort. That's the first thing I would do. And if you can't do it, tell your relatives to call the Miracles or call Harrison. 911 is what people used to tell me. Well, Harrison, your number's 911 because I stay in stuff.
Harrison 911.
Right? Harrison 911. So I think the big thing is a part of it is education, like Mama used to tell us. We need to get bright about where we need to go.
Yeah.
But Mama also used to say that when it comes to black folks in general, just because you're my color don't make you my kind. Some black folks ain't been black in years. You want to try to bypass those folks because they will sabotage you and vote for that other guy. Vote for that other guy.
What you mean, them players out there that say, "Come on, just a little hit, it don't matter."
Yeah, a little.
Don't believe nothing they telling you, just a little bit.
Well, when I worked inside Oregon State Penitentiary for like 15 years, maybe 17, and I would be in a group and I'd do this thing called the all that test, right? So you got all these brothers in blue, various shades of blue. So the all that test is how many brothers here think they are some of that? A couple hands go up.
Yeah.
What about a little bit of that? A couple hands go up. What about all that? All the hands go up. So then I say, all you that's all that, you're all in the same group.
Yeah.
You're all in the same blue. I'm the only brother here today going home. This one brother told me that he loved crack when he come to group. He said, I love me some crack.
Yeah.
So I tell it, this is quite a while ago because we didn't talk about crack no more. But I told the brother one day, I'm not going to put up with this. I'll let you do it for a while. So I come in one day, I love me some crack, brother. Your time has come. What do you mean my time has come? What about my good time? It ain't my good time, brother. I'm going to have to do 2 years because I can't be in your group? Well, that's not on me. So the next week, guard sends him out. Next week, I go into Oregon State Penitentiary.
Yeah.
He comes up on me. But the police is behind him. And they grab him. I'm standing there going, brother, at least, have some game. You know what I mean? So 5 minutes later, I go up to the hole where he goes. He said, what you doing here? I said, nigga, you the one in jail. I'm here to tell you something. Here's my card. Here's where I'm at. And when you get out, come see me. He got out. He came and saw me. But at that time, I was working for the county, and he was walking down the street one day. Inside the penitentiary, he's 250 pounds, and outside the penitentiary, and lost his ass. That crack that he loved did not love him. It hated him.
Yeah, can't save your ass in your face at the same time.
Can't save your ass in your face at the same time. His ass had fell off. And truth be told, what I said to him was, I said, whoop your ass. And ain't shit you could do right now, partner. Right? Robert T., this is his last initial, he's got about 12 years now. Because he come back, and we always invite people back, and he's been doing well, and he tells that story every time I go to a meeting. He tells that story. That brother there had me do, and then they'll straighten it out. That brother there saved my life.
Hey, man, Harrison, this was great chopping it up with you on this topic here. Man, because I tell you, it's just been too long now. I mean, just because it's legal to consume whatever you want to consume, don't mean you have to consume it until you die.
Right, because it ain't legal to us.
Because it ain't not to us. No. It's been a price we had to pay for this. Yeah. Rather if it's legalized marijuana or whatever. It seems like we always get the victim end or the blunt end of the mallet and never get the paying end of the mallet to where we got our hands on the handle, where we can be dealing what we're dealing with. But today we seem to be fighting for a solution to these problems. But to me, it's such a difficult place to be. I mean, when for us always coming up to this point, is that we've seen the negative effects of what drugs does to our communities. Right. We've never seen the beneficial aspect of it. Well, we've seen a little bit of the selling aspect of it, but the war on drugs made that was difficult to get a profit.
So war on drugs, war on people.
But the whole idea today is if you're looking for a solution to pain, there are a lot of other solutions to them. To me, substance is a temporary solution to your pain. There are much more, as you've heard Harrison speak about some of your alternatives, some of the options that we have as medicine. If you got cancer and you're running around out there throwing up, not one time will you look at the person that has cancer and hold them in some form of contempt. If you see them spitting up or something, you'll lean over and clean their spit up because they got cancer.
Right. But if they got addiction, you'll go the other way.
Yeah, if they got addictions, most of us tend to run away from people that we are
and judge them on the way out.
Judge them on the way out. Not understanding that they've just simply crossed that imaginary line of the loss of control. Right. Coming from a place of the perception of control to a place of lost control. So, hey, folks, we're going to keep on topic for y'all, only because this fentanyl issue across the counter is just really got my head going crazy because,
well, don't confuse what you're saying. What's across the counter is naloxone, Narcan. Fentanyl doesn't come
not
across
fentanyl.
the counter,
I'm sorry,
right?
but they sooner or later they said that the other drugs are going to be laced with this fentanyl.
Well, fentanyl's in every drug, and the cold part is this: is the people that sell fentanyl to the people that sell fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell them that fentanyl is in the drug. They sell them as benzodiazepines.
Mm.
They look like benzodiazepines.
Mm.
The different colors, all of that. Mm. But it's the fentanyl they don't tell them that's in there that kills folks.
Yeah. Everything that looks good
ain't good. All that glitters ain't gold.
So, hello. So, hey, y'all. Look, we chopped it up a little bit around this topic because I feel, as Harrison feels, there's a need for our community to just simply be a little bit more diligent about your consumption of these things and don't have a false lullaby into believing they're a solution to your pain. So anyway, y'all have a nice, great afternoon. And Harrison, we appreciate you coming in, chopping it up about this issue. And hey, y'all, keep it black, you hear?
Thank you. Thank you very much.